While you're sitting on your couch watching this video, someone out there is climbing Everest, a place where the air is almost gone, where every step could be the last, and where hundreds of frozen bodies still lie on the slopes, untouched and unburied. They never disappear, they just stay there, forever. Their names are known to anyone who's ever cared about the mountains. Green Boots, David Sharp, Hannelore Schmatz, Shreya Shah Chlorfine. Every year, the list grows longer. Each body tells a story, someone's choice, someone's dream that turned into a nightmare. But one story stands apart. This isn't just another tragedy at 8,500 meters. It's a love story, real, reckless, and faithful to the very last breath. The story of a husband and wife who tried to do the impossible and who became part of the mountain forever. Sergei and Francys Arsentiev. He was one of the strongest climbers of the former Soviet Union. She was an American woman in love, with the mountains and with him. Together they went where few dare to go, and together they stayed where the sky meets the earth. It all begins in 1991. The Soviet Union collapses, borders crumble, and climbers from the former republics, people who once climbed only their own mountains in the Pamirs, the Tian Shan, and the Caucasus, suddenly gain access to the Himalayas, to the 8,000ers, to the peaks they had dreamed of their whole lives. Base camps under Everest, Cho Oyu, and Makalu start filling with Russian-speaking teams, strong, ambitious, fearless. These are people raised on the Soviet school of mountaineering, tough, merciless, but incredibly effective. Now they're eager to prove to themselves and to the world that they can go even further. It's a new era, without borders, without ideology, but full of danger. Because the Himalayas don't forgive mistakes. Here, it doesn't matter where you're from or what flag you carry. There's only one question that matters. Will you survive or not? And in one of those camps, beneath the 8,000-meter peak of Cho Oyu, two people meet. An American woman named Francis Di Stefano and a Russian climber, Sergei Arsentiev. She came to conquer summits. He was already a legend among his peers. Between them, something begins, something that will change their lives forever. But this is only the beginning. Ahead lie years of ascents, an impossible dream, and a mountain that never lets anyone go. Francis Di Stefano isn't the kind of American tourist who comes to the Himalayas for selfies against snowy peaks. She's here to climb, to feel the thin air burn her lungs, to stand where ordinary life ends and something else begins. At the base camp of Cho Oyu, she meets him, Sergei Arsentiev, a Russian climber known for taking on routes others refuse to touch. His English is accented, but when it comes to mountains, words don't matter. They understand each other without them. Sergei invites her to join an expedition to the Pamirs. Francis agrees without a second thought. And that decision changes everything, because in the mountains, people reveal themselves faster than they ever could in everyday life. There are no masks up there. You can't pretend to be someone else. Remember that. It might come in handy someday. A romance sparks between them. Not a vacation fling, not a sentimental story, but something real. They both realize they've found what they'd been searching for all along. Not just summits, each other. In 1992, they get married. From that moment, their life turns into an endless expedition. The Pamirs, the Tian Shan, the Caucasus, the Himalayas. They go where most people can barely breathe, and they do it together. They're not just a pair of climbers, they're a team. Sergei is experienced, calculating, steady as steel. Francis is brave, stubborn, and willing to go all the way. Together, they're stronger than either could ever be alone, and soon the results start to show. They make the first ascent of an unnamed peak in the Pamirs, 5,800 meters high, and name it the Peak of Goodwill. Fitting, considering they've become a symbol of a new era, when Russians and Americans are no longer enemies but partners. Francis keeps pushing forward. She becomes the first American woman to ski down Mount Elbrus, 5,600 meters of frozen slope. It's not just a test of skill, it's a test of absolute control over fear. The climbing world starts talking about them. This couple who doesn't believe in borders, who goes where others don't even dare to look. With every ascent, their confidence grows. But in the mountains, there's a rule. The higher you climb, the greater the price of a mistake. And the peaks they've conquered so far, those were just warm-ups, because ahead of them lies Everest, the highest point on Earth. A place where the air is almost gone, and death walks beside every step. They come up with a plan, bold, ambitious, insanely dangerous. Everest doesn't forgive haste. It's not the kind of mountain you can climb just because you're in good shape. Everything works differently here. Your biggest enemy isn't the cold or the wind or the steep slopes. It's the air, or rather, the lack of it. Before attempting the summit, Sergei and Francys go through acclimatization. It's not a formality, it's a matter of life and death. The body has to adjust to less and less oxygen, to the fact that each breath gives you only a third of what you get at sea level. The process is simple, but brutal. You climb to a certain altitude and stay there for a few days. Then you descend, then you go higher, and down again. Bit by bit, the body learns to produce more red blood cells, the lungs adapt, and the heart starts beating differently. But if you skip this process, the body begins to shut down. First comes the headache, pounding, unbearable, then nausea, weakness, fluid fills your lungs, pulmonary edema. You start suffocating, even lying still in your tent, and then it gets worse. The brain swells, confusion sets in. You stop understanding where you are, what's happening. You start making choices that make no sense, and if you don't go down right away, that's it. Game over. Sergei and Francys know this. They understand that acclimatization isn't just preparation, it's insurance. The only guarantee that your brain will still work, even a little, up there, where every decision has to be made in seconds. But they have a problem: the weather. On Everest, there's something climbers call the window. A short period in May when the winds calm down and there's a brief chance to reach the summit. That window lasts only a few days, sometimes less. Miss it, and that's it. The next opportunity won't come for another year. Time is running out. Proper acclimatization takes weeks, a slow, steady climb. But they don't have weeks. The weather sets the rules, and they're forced to move faster. Every climber knows that when you start rushing in the mountains, you start making mistakes. But there's no choice. Either you take the risk now, or you walk away empty-handed. And walking away just isn't an option for them. They climb, descend, climb higher. Their bodies adapt, but not completely. Not enough. They're pushing their limits, trying to keep pace with a schedule that nature itself considers too harsh. And somewhere deep inside, both of them know they're walking the edge. But the dream is stronger than fear, and time won't wait. It's 1998. Sergei and Francys stand in base camp, looking up at the summit, 8,848 meters. The roof of the world, the place where everything ends. But they don't just want to reach the top. They want to do it without oxygen. You know what that means? Most climbers go up Everest with oxygen tanks. It's not cowardice. It's common sense. At that altitude, your lungs get only a third of the air they need. The brain starts to shut down. The body slowly dies, minute by minute. The tank gives you a chance. Not a guarantee, just a chance. Without it, you rely entirely on your body's ability to survive where humans simply aren't meant to exist. But Sergei and Francys aren't looking for the easy way. Their goal is to make history. Francys wants to become the first woman ever to reach the summit of Everest without oxygen. No one before her has done it. The numbers are brutal. 1 out of every 6 climbers who attempt Everest without oxygen dies. 1 in 6. Imagine rolling a die. If it lands on 1, you don't come back. You stay there, on the slope, forever. They know those odds. Sergei is an experienced climber. He understands exactly what he's facing. Francys isn't a beginner either. She's spent enough time in the mountains to have seen the bodies of those who never made it down. But the desire is stronger than the fear. This isn't recklessness. It's a conscious choice. They believe in their skills, in their training, in the idea that they'll be part of the lucky 5 out of 6 who return. And there's another factor: money. Climbing Everest costs tens of thousands of dollars. Permits, logistics, equipment, guides, Sherpas. It all adds up. They don't have that kind of money, so they look for sponsors. And sponsors want a story, not just, "We climbed Everest." There are hundreds of those. They want something unique, something that makes headlines. The first woman to climb Everest without oxygen, that's a story. The pressure builds day by day. Sponsors have invested and expect results. Years of training, preparation, and acclimatization all lead to this moment. Backing out now would mean failure, losing money, losing trust, losing everything they've worked for. So, they make the call. They'll go all the way. No oxygen, no turning back. May 19th. Sergei and Francys reach 8,200 meters, the death zone. They set up a small high camp, just a tiny tent that will be their last shelter before the summit. Radio contact with base camp is steady. Sergei reports they're feeling fine. The plan is simple. They'll start at 1 a.m. on May 20th. A night ascent, standard practice. You climb in the cold and darkness so that by sunrise you're already high up. And most importantly, so that your descent happens in daylight. They lie down to rest. But at 8,000 meters, rest is just a word. You lie in your sleeping bag, gasping for air, every breath a struggle. Your heart pounds. Your head feels like it's splitting open. There's no real sleep, just a half-dreaming haze where you can't tell what's real and what's a nightmare. 1 in the morning, they crawl out of the tent, gear up, check the ropes, switch on their headlamps. And then the first problem hits. The lights barely work. The batteries, drained by the cold, die almost instantly. Out here, nothing electronic behaves predictably. It's -30, maybe colder. Every battery turns into a useless chunk of metal. Francys has 2 spare lamps, but they fail one after another. The light fades. They're left standing in the total darkness, at an altitude where one wrong step means falling into the abyss. Sergei makes a decision. To keep climbing in these conditions would be suicide. They turn back and return to camp, postponing the summit push. It sounds like the smart move, but there's a catch. They've already spent one night at 8,200 meters without oxygen. Now they'll spend a second. Every night in the death zone is a massive blow to the body. You don't recover. You only lose strength. The longer you stay, the smaller your chances of survival. Francys feels it. Her body starts sending warnings. Her movements slow. Her coordination slips. She tries to hide it, but the lack of oxygen is taking hold. Her brain is foggy. Her reactions dulled. Sergei sees it too. He knows time is running out, that every extra night here pushes them closer to disaster. But they stay. They spend a second night without oxygen. And at that point, it's no longer preparation. It's a gamble with death. In the morning, someone approaches their tent. Anatoly Moshnikov, a close friend of Sergei's, and an experienced commercial climber. He's guiding a French client up Everest and had camped nearby. Moshnikov takes one look at Sergei and Francys and sees the truth. They've already spent 2 nights in the death zone without oxygen, but he also sees something else, their determination. They have no intention of giving up. Sergei explains the issue with the headlamps. Moshnikov hands him his own spare batteries and suggests they climb together the next morning. 4 people are safer than 2, so they do. Sergei, Francys, Moshnikov, and his client, a Frenchman named Romain Gilles, set out for the summit. This is supposed to be their push. The weather's holding. The window is still open. But after only 100 meters, Sergei realizes something's wrong. Francys is moving too slowly, not just tired, but dangerously slow. She walks 50 meters, stops to breathe, then forces out a few more steps before stopping again. This isn't exhaustion, it's oxygen starvation. Her body is at its limit. 2 nights in the death zone have drained her completely. Her brain is in survival mode, her muscles no longer respond. Sergei makes the call. They turn back. Again. Moshnikov and his client continue upward. They have oxygen, they have strength. They reach the summit safely and begin their descent. Sergei and Francys return to their camp at 8,200 meters. A third night, no oxygen, still in the death zone. At this point, it's beyond reason. Every climber knows, if you can't summit on your first or second attempt, you turn back. Your body is telling you it's done, that there's nothing left, that pushing further means self-destruction. On May 21st, Moshnikov descends to their camp. He sees their condition and tries to reach them. Go down, tomorrow we go together. It's too much. He's not advising, he's begging, because he knows one more night up here could mean death. But Sergei and Francys shake their heads. They've come too far. Years of preparation. Tens of thousands of their own dollars. They'd refinance their house. No sponsors, no backing, just this dream, the goal of their entire lives. The summit is only a few hundred meters away. To turn back now, to walk away empty-handed, to admit it was all for nothing? No. They decide to keep going. Moshnikov heads down. There's nothing more he can do. He tried, but the choice is theirs. The night of May 22nd, Sergei and Francys step out of their tent for the 3rd time, after 3 nights in the death zone, still without oxygen. Radio contact with base camp is steady. Down below, people watch them through high-powered optics. At 10 in the morning, Anatoly Shabanov reports seeing two figures near the first step. They're moving, slowly but moving. By 2 p.m., they're spotted above the second step, around 8,700 meters, still climbing, step by step, in air so thin it can barely sustain life. That same day, a team from Uzbekistan is also pushing for the summit. They had left camp at 8 in the morning, fresh, strong, using oxygen. One of them, Rustam Rajapov, catches up with Sergei and Francys somewhere around 8,800 meters. What he sees terrifies him. Francys is barely moving. She takes a few steps, sits down, rests, gets up again. Her face is a mask of exhaustion. Her body is running on fumes. Rajapov keeps climbing. At 4:40 in the afternoon, he reaches the summit. He stays only a few minutes, long enough to take it in, and starts down. Because lingering on top means death. On the way down, he meets them again, and realizes they won't make it. Their pace is too slow. Darkness will catch them long before they reach safety. He stops, tries to reason with them. "Go down now, come with me, you won't make it before nightfall." Sergei shakes his head. "Don't worry about us. We have a cache below, between the first and second steps. There's a tent, oxygen, warm clothes. We'll stay there overnight." Rajapov even turns back with them for about 50 meters, uphill, an incredible effort for someone just descending from the summit. He tries to persuade them, but Sergei is firm. "We've got everything we need. We'll be fine." Rajapov believes him. He can't check. He's at his own limit, so he lets them go and continues down. At 8,630 meters, he finds their cache, a half-empty backpack, a half-empty oxygen bottle, a flashlight, a flask, no tent, no warm clothes, nothing. But Sergei and Francys are already too high, too far gone. All Rajapov can do is keep descending and hope they somehow survive. And they keep climbing, one step, then another, each breath tearing through their lungs, hearts pounding, brains shutting down from lack of oxygen. But they keep going, because the summit is close now, so close. 6:30 p.m. Sergei and Francys stand on the roof of the world, 8,848 meters, Everest, the highest point on Earth. Francys becomes the first woman in history to reach the summit without oxygen. The dream is fulfilled, the record set, they did it. A few moments of euphoria, an embrace, maybe even tears, though up here, tears freeze instantly. But the joy doesn't last. The sun is setting, darkness falls fast, and they still have to get down. Their strength is gone, completely. 4 nights in the death zone, a summit climb without oxygen. Their bodies are destroyed, their minds fogged by hypoxia, and ahead lies the most dangerous part, the descent that kills most climbers. They start down, in the dark, on ice and rock where one mistake means the end. Somewhere below, their cache should be waiting, the one that doesn't exist. They move through the darkness. Headlamps cut narrow beams into the black, but the light is weak, too weak. Batteries die fast in the cold. Every step is a gamble. You can't really see where your foot will land. You just hope there's something solid beneath it. 8,600 meters, the spot where their cache should be. Sergei remembers it clearly. A tent, oxygen, warm clothes. If they reach it, they'll survive the night. But when they arrive, there's nothing. Well, almost nothing. A backpack, half empty, a flashlight, a flask. That's it. No tent, no sleeping bags, no extra layers beyond what they're wearing. The temperature is below -30. The wind cuts their faces like blades. And the night has only begun. What do they feel in that moment? Fear? Despair? Or has the lack of oxygen shut down emotion entirely? Maybe there's only instinct left. Do what you must to survive. Sit down. Hold each other close. Wait for sunrise. It's their 4th night above 8,000 meters, without oxygen, and their 2nd without a tent. The human body isn't made for this, not even close. At this altitude, every cell is screaming, "Go down, now!" But descending in the dark is almost certain death. So they stay, and they wait. Hours stretch into what feels like years. The cold seeps through every layer of clothing. Fingers go numb, legs lose feeling, breathing becomes shallow, consciousness drifts. Finally, dawn, gray, dim, but it's light. And light means movement. They have to move, because staying here any longer means death. They stand up, or try to. Their muscles don't respond. Their legs buckle. Coordination is gone. But somehow, they manage to rise and start descending. Slowly, painfully, every step takes everything they have left. And somewhere during that descent, they lose each other. How does it happen? Maybe one moves a little faster. Maybe the other stops to rest, and the partner doesn't notice. Maybe fog or snow closes in, cutting visibility to nothing. Or maybe their minds just aren't working anymore. You keep walking, eyes fixed on your feet, focused on each step. And then you look up, and there's no one beside you. It's one of the most terrifying moments in the mountains. The realization that you're alone, at 8,500 meters. No radio, no landmarks, and no idea where your partner is. Ahead, behind, did they fall, stop, die? Sergei keeps going down. Around 8,450 meters, he meets a group of Uzbek climbers heading up. Strong, rested, full oxygen tanks, hope in their eyes. He stops, looks at them, and asks, "Have you seen my wife? Her name's Francys. She hasn't come down?" They shake their heads. No, they haven't seen anyone. The route is empty. Sergei says nothing, just nods, and keeps descending, toward the tents, toward camp. There's nothing else he can do. He has no strength left. His body is at its breaking point. 5 nights in the death zone. It's beyond what even the strongest climber can endure. And Francys stays somewhere above, alone, around 8,550 meters, on a steep icy slope where the temperature is -30, where there's just enough air to breathe, but not enough to move. She stands, leaning against a rock, just stands there. Because she can't go any farther. Her legs won't work. Her hands have gone numb. Her mind is fading into fog. Reality starts to blur. The 5th day at altitude. No oxygen, no food, no water, no sleep. A human being isn't meant to survive this. But somehow, she's still breathing, still standing, still holding on to that rock. And somewhere, deep inside what's left of her awareness, a thought must flicker. Where's Sergei? Where's my husband? But there's no answer, only the wind, the cold, and the endless white slope all around her. The Uzbek team climbs higher. Oleg Grigoriev, Andrei Fyodorov, Sergei Sokolov, Svetlana Baskakova, and Marat Usayev. 5 climbers. They're heading for the summit, chasing their own goal, their own dream. But at about 8,550 meters, they see a figure, a woman, standing by a rock, completely still, unnaturally still. They move closer and realize it's Francys. She's standing with both hands resting on the rock, head bowed, eyes open but unfocused, staring down at nothing. Her pupils are huge, blown wide from hypoxia and cold. Her skin is white, not pale, white, almost milky, the color of deep frostbite. There's no proper harness on her. Her safety line is clipped directly to her jacket zipper, which means if she slips, the jacket will just tear open, and that's it. Grigoriev approaches first. "Miss, can you hear us? Are you Francys? Your husband's been looking for you. He's already down." No reaction. She keeps staring downward. Her lips move, but no sound comes out. Just a faint murmur, incoherent. They understand immediately. This is bad, really bad, but leaving someone at this altitude isn't just a decision. It's a sentence. So they try to help. They call base camp over the radio. A doctor answers, giving instructions. Give her circulation tablets, put her on oxygen, full flow, 4 liters per minute. They place the mask over her face and open the valve all the way. Oxygen begins to flow, but Francys keeps tearing the mask off, again and again. Her hands move on their own, as if the mask is suffocating her, though it's the only thing keeping her alive. They try to sit her down carefully, easing her onto the snow. They start massaging her arms and legs, rubbing her fingers to bring blood back. Her hands are hard, cold, white, like wax. This isn't mild frostbite anymore. The tissue is dying. Her legs don't work at all. When they try to lift her, her knees buckle and she collapses. She can't hold her own weight. Her muscles no longer respond to her brain. They give her pills, try to make her drink hot tea from a thermos. But she doesn't swallow. The liquid just runs down her chin. Her reflexes are gone. Grigoriev looks at her and realizes they're at the limit. The team has 10 oxygen bottles for 5 people, just enough for their climb and descent. If they leave the tanks with Francys, if they spend too much time here, they might not make it back themselves. Fyodorov and Usayev have already given her their oxygen bottles. Now they're without any. They either have to keep moving, up or down, but fast, because without oxygen at this altitude, you last only a few hours. The team stands around Francys in silence. Everyone understands. Bringing her down is impossible. She can't walk. Carrying her is also impossible. At 8,500 meters, another person's body weight is a death sentence. You can drag someone 50 meters, maybe 100. After that, your heart gives out. There have been climbers who tried to rescue their partners high on the mountain and died with them, or died trying, leaving the person they wanted to save still behind. Grigoriev makes a decision. Sokolov, Baskakova, and Usayev will continue toward the summit. He and Fyodorov will stay with Francys and try to bring her down, even a little. 100 meters lower means more oxygen, a slightly better chance. At 1 p.m., Fyodorov heads up too, without oxygen. His tank and mask are with Francys. He climbs breathing thin air, knowing exactly what that means. It's suicide, but he goes anyway, because if not now, then never. Grigoriev is left alone, with a woman slowly dying in his arms. He sits beside her, holds her, pulls up her hood, connects his last oxygen bottle, and opens it all the way. Time crawls. The sun moves across the sky. The temperature drops. Grigoriev feels the cold creeping through his clothes, his fingers going numb, his breath growing heavier. He's on the edge himself. At 2 p.m., he understands. If he stays any longer, he won't make it down. He fastens Francys to the fixed rope, secures the oxygen mask over her face, adjusts her mittens, her hat, her hood, does everything he can. Then he leaves, starts descending, leaving her there, alive, breathing, but doomed. It's not cruelty. It's the arithmetic of survival at an altitude where humans aren't meant to exist. Grigoriev descends in the dark. His headlamp cuts through only a few meters ahead. The slope drops away in an endless white strip. The wind howls. The cold bites to the bone. Every step takes willpower. His legs feel like lead. His lungs are on fire. Without oxygen at this altitude, you feel like a fish thrown onto the shore, gasping, helpless. He clings to the fixed rope. Step, another step, stop, breathe, move again. Meter by meter. One thought in his head. Get down, reach the tents, the warmth, the oxygen. Then he sees light. Ahead, below. No, not below. It's moving upward, toward him. Grigoriev freezes. Who could be climbing now? At night? After a day like this? It's madness. Pure madness. The figure moves slowly but steadily, step by step. The beam of a headlamp sways in the dark. The distance shrinks, 20 meters, 15, 10. They meet on a narrow stretch of the slope. Grigoriev raises his light and sees the face of the climber, Sergei Arsentiev, the same Sergei who'd been descending that morning, who'd met the Uzbek team asking if anyone had seen his wife. Who should be down at camp now, in warmth, in safety? But he's here, climbing back up, a backpack on his shoulders, an oxygen tank jutting out from it. They look at each other. For a few seconds, no words, just the wind screaming between them. Is she alive? Sergei asks. His voice is hoarse, exhausted, but steady. Yes, alive. I just left her, Grigoriev replies. Sergei nods, says nothing more, and keeps climbing. Past Grigoriev, upward, toward where Francys is waiting. Grigoriev turns, watching him go. Sergei's headlamp grows smaller, fainter, then disappears into the darkness. It's unbelievable, beyond what a human body should be capable of. Sergei had descended that morning, spent 4 nights in the death zone, summited without oxygen, survived a night without a tent, reached camp at 8,200 meters, and now he's climbing back up. Again, with oxygen for his wife. It's his 5th night above 8,000 meters. 5th. No one should survive that. The human body simply isn't built for it. The heart gives out. The brain shuts down. The lungs collapse. But Sergei climbs, because up there, in the dark, his wife is waiting. Alone. The woman he loves. Dying. And he can't leave her. He just can't. Even if it means his own death. even if there's no chance at all. He climbs. Grigoriev watches the light fade away, then turns and continues his descent. What else can he do? Nothing. He's done all he could, and he has no strength left. None at all. Sergei climbs higher, alone, into the night, up the icy slope, an oxygen tank strapped to his back, toward his wife, who might already be gone. But he keeps going, because he promised to be with her, always. The beam of his headlamp fades into the dark. The wind wipes away his tracks. The night swallows every sound. From that moment on, no one ever sees Sergei Arsentiev again. No one. Ever. What happened up there? Did he reach Francys? Spend her last hours by her side? Did he fall on the way? Sit down to rest and never get up again? No one knows. There are only guesses, theories, no proof. 5 nights in the death zone, without real oxygen. The last 2 without a tent. It's beyond endurance, beyond what's humanly possible. But it happened. And somewhere up there, at 8,500 meters, Sergei and Francys Arsentiev spent their final night together, on the roof of the world, in the frozen dark, beneath 1 billion stars, together until the end. May 24th, morning. A South African expedition sets out for the summit. Ian Woodall, Kathy O'Dowd, and 4 Sherpas, 6 people, fresh, strong, full oxygen tanks, eyes fixed on the dream of the peak. They climb steadily. The weather's good, visibility perfect, everything going to plan. Just a few more hours, and they'll stand on top of the world. But at around 8,450 meters, they see something strange. A figure, sitting by a rock, motionless. They move closer and freeze. A woman, tied to a fixed rope, sitting with her head tilted to one side, leaning back. The oxygen mask hangs loose on its strap beside her. Her hands are bare, her fingers white, waxy, her skin the color of milk. It's Francys, the 5th day. The 5th day she's been there. At 8,500 meters, no oxygen, no food, no water, in minus 30 degrees. A human being shouldn't survive this, shouldn't even be able to exist here. But she did. But she's breathing. Kathy O'Dowd is the first to reach her. She kneels down, looks into her face, and sees open eyes. Huge pupils, black, empty, unfocused, staring but not seeing. "Help me," Francys whispers, barely audible. Her lips barely move. "Help me." Kathy freezes. She looks at this woman and sees herself. Long, dark hair, about the same age, another climber, another dreamer. For a moment, Kathy feels like she's looking at her own future. "Don't leave me," Francys murmurs, again and again. "Don't leave me." Kathy turns to the others. The Sherpas stand silently, their faces expressionless. They've seen this before, many times. They know what's coming. "We have to try," Kathy says, her voice trembling. They move into action. One of the Sherpas opens a thermos and tries to give Francys tea, but she doesn't swallow. The liquid runs down her chin, freezing on her jacket. Kathy rubs her hands, massages her fingers. They're hard, cold, like stone. This isn't frostbite anymore. It's necrosis. The tissue is dead. Ian Woodall checks the oxygen tank. Empty? Completely. The gauge shows 0. The mask is torn off. She must have ripped it away again and again in delirium. They have spare tanks, but no extra masks. And her Russian-made mask doesn't fit their gear. Different system, different thread. They could give her one of their tanks with a mask, but that would leave one of them without oxygen, at 8,500 meters. And for what? To extend her agony a few more hours? She can't move. Her legs are gone. Her hands don't respond. Her mind is fading. At that moment, 3 Uzbek climbers arrive, Tukvatulin, Zaikin, and Dokukin. They're also heading for the summit. They stop, look at Francys. "Can you help us?" Kathy asks. "Maybe together we could bring her down. It might work." Tukvatulin shakes his head. "We tried yesterday," he says quietly. "We left her oxygen. She's too far gone. There's nothing more we can do." Kathy looks at Francys, at her white, frozen face, her wide, empty pupils, her bare hands, her fingers that will never come back to life. The Uzbeks exchange glances. The Sherpas stay silent. The decision forms without words. They can't save her. They just can't. If they stay longer, they'll freeze. If they try to drag her down, they'll all fall. "I'll come back," Kathy tells Francys. Her voice cracks. "I promise. I'll bring help. I'll come back." But it's a lie, and Kathy knows it. There will be no help. No one will climb back up here. Not today, not tomorrow. The South Africans turn around. No one says a word. They begin their descent, giving up the summit, the dream, the goal they've spent months preparing for and tens of thousands of dollars chasing. Kathy O'Dowd cries the entire way down. Her tears freeze on her face. Her mask fogs up. She stumbles as she walks. The Sherpa ahead yells at her not to look back, just to move, just to keep walking. But she turns around once, just once, and sees the figure up there, small, alone, tied to a rope on the endless white slope beneath the deep blue sky. Francys stays there, alone, alive, breathing, whispering, "Help me," into the void. It's the last time anyone ever sees her alive, the 5th day without oxygen, at an altitude where life shouldn't exist. She lasted longer than any human body should have been able to, longer than medical science says is possible. But even her will, even her strength, even her love for her husband couldn't defeat Everest. No one can. The mountain always takes what it wants. And somewhere up there, near her, maybe Sergei still lies. The man who climbed back into the dark for her, who carried oxygen, who might have held her in her final hours. Or maybe he never made it. Maybe he fell, froze, sat down, and never got up again. Francys remains on the slope. Days pass, then months, then years. Everest lives its own life, each season welcoming new climbers, new dreamers, new souls willing to gamble everything. And she stays, sitting by the rock, still tied to the rope, staring at the sky. Her eyes are open. The cold has turned her skin pale, almost porcelain. Her hair shifts gently in the wind. Far below, other climbers pass. Some glance up and freeze. Some take a photo. Some look away. But no one can walk past without feeling that the mountain itself is watching them. People call her by many names, but one stays. The Sleeping Beauty. That's what the Sherpas whisper. That's what the guides and the newcomers call her when they see her for the first time. The woman who climbed without oxygen and never came back. She becomes a symbol, not just of tragedy, but of the mountain itself. The mountains aren't cruel or kind. They simply exist. They don't care who you are. A hero, a mother, a husband, a record breaker. You don't conquer Everest. Everest allows you to climb it if it wishes, and it takes you when it decides. Over the years, climbers and trekkers tell her story. Some say, "We saw a woman on the slope." Others ask, "Was it her, the woman?" Her story turns into legend. Photos, interviews, endless debates. Why did they go without oxygen? Why didn't they turn back? Why didn't anyone save her? But the answers are lost in the wind, because at 8,500 meters, there is no why. There is only cold, silence, and the summit, the place you sometimes should never reach. 8 years pass. It's 2007. Ian Woodall returns to Everest. With him is Kathy O'Dowd, the same Kathy who once descended with frozen tears on her face. She had promised to come back, and now she does. Not for records, not for fame, for a promise. They're joined by a small team of Sherpas and a few climber friends. The weather is rare, calm, almost no wind. They move slowly. Every step feels like a memory. Kathy walks in silence. She knows where to go. She's seen this slope in her dreams 100 times. And then, there it is. The rock, the frozen rope, the snow that never melts. They find Francys. She's still sitting there, as if she'd simply stopped to rest. The same posture, the same gaze. The mountain hasn't changed her. It has only wrapped her in snow, as if gently shielding her from the world. Kathy kneels beside her, lays a hand on the down jacket. The Sherpas stand silently nearby. No one hurries. Time moves differently up here. They know they can't bring the body down. It's too heavy, too dangerous. But they do what they came to do. They move her away from the main route to a quiet place off the path. They cover her with the American flag, the symbol of the country she came from, and leave a note. "Francys Arsentiev, beloved wife, the first woman to climb without oxygen. Rest in peace." It isn't a rescue. It isn't a victory. It's a farewell. Kathy stands there, looking at the slope where their group once passed. The ropes are gone now, the tracks erased, only the wind remains, and the eternal ice. A little lower down lies another body, the one known as Green Boots, a climber who died back in the 90s. His green boots have become a landmark for everyone who ascends. Now, not far from him, lies Francys. Two symbols, two stories. Two reminders that Everest never forgives mistakes. After that, Woodall and O'Dowd never return. They've done all they could. And still, people keep climbing Everest. New faces, new dreams. Some return from the summit. Others remain on its slopes. And everyone who reaches the place where the sky ends hears these stories. About those who came before, and those who never came back. The story of Francys lives among them, not as a tragedy, but as a reminder. Sometimes the summit isn't the place where you stand. It's the place from which you can never return. 1999. Only one season has passed since that terrible spring. Another expedition climbs Everest, an American team led by Jake Norton. Their goal isn't fame or records. They've come to search for the missing, to bring names back to those who were left nameless in the snow. On one of the slopes, a little below where Francys was found, Norton spots something dark frozen into the ice. He comes closer and sees a man, a Soviet-style down suit, an oxygen tank beside him. The body lies face down, as if he'd been trying to get up and couldn't. From the position, it's clear. He fell while climbing back toward his wife. It's Sergei Arsentiev, not a rescuer, not a tourist, not a hero from newspaper headlines. Just a husband who went upward when everyone else was going down. He knew he wouldn't survive. He knew there wasn't enough oxygen even to make it back. But he went anyway, to be with her, to keep her from dying alone. Norton and his team carefully mark the spot on the map. They can't bring the body down. It's too dangerous. But they place a stone beside him, engraved with the words, Sergei Arsentiev, 1998. A small sign that says more than any monument could. And so, their stories come together. Two lives, two climbs, two paths that ended in the same place. Not for glory, not for records, but for love and the stubbornness to keep a promise even when it costs everything. Everest took them both, and by doing so, made them immortal. Today, when climbers pass that stretch of the mountain, someone always says, they're here, husband and wife. They climbed together, and they stayed together. Maybe that's the real summit, not the one where you plant a flag, but the one where you keep your promise to the end. The story of Sergei and Francys isn't about numbers or records. It's not about reaching the highest point on Earth. It's about what stands higher than any summit: love, loyalty, and the strength to stay when everything else is gone. Everest doesn't remember their names, but thousands of people do. Everyone who hears their story understands. True height isn't about how far you climb. It's about not losing your humanity when the air runs out. Their story has lived on for more than 20 years. You've probably heard it before. Maybe you've read it, maybe seen the old footage, or maybe you're hearing it again now. Because stories like this never grow old. They return every time someone heads for the mountains, chasing the sky. And recently, a new tragedy. Two-time Olympic biathlon champion Laura Dahlmeier, strong, experienced, a living legend, lost her life in the mountains. We told that story too, about her final climb and how even champions can be powerless against nature. If stories like these move you, stories of people who go further than what seems possible, support the channel. Like, subscribe, and turn on the bell. It helps us keep telling these stories and remembering those who stayed where the sky begins.